When Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order was released back in 2019, I wasn't initially very interested in it. However, I did end up getting it at a good price, and I did actually enjoy it. So I've been looking forward to Jedi Survivor, and after about 3 hours spent playing through the story and some of the side content, here are my thoughts. Jedi Survivor takes place 5 years after the events of the original game. The fight against the Empire continues, and the core cast makes a return in this adventure. This time, though, Cal and his allies are searching for a safe place where they can hide from the Empire. As usual, I'm not going to talk about any specifics regarding the story since I don't want to spoil it. Suffice to say, though, Cal has grown both as a Jedi and as a person who faces his own internal struggles. However, the narrative is not the most original and the story beats have been seen before. Still, the great set pieces and voice acting and more fleshed out characters keep things more interesting. As a result, the story doesn't really lose any momentum and I found it to be quite enjoyable all the way through. The game is visually impressive with great vistas to behold in the various locations that you visit throughout the galaxy. It's a step up from the previous game, which I suppose should come as no surprise since that was 4 years ago. The audio is great as well, blaster fire and saber swooshes are powerful. Ambient sounds in the different worlds create a sense of presence, and the Star Wars thematic music certainly lends immersion. The gameplay loop of Jedi Survivor follows the same formula as its predecessor. You have a choice of planets to travel to via the holomap on your ship, the Mantis. The available locations depend on where in the story you are. The play areas in general are larger in this sequel, especially Kobo, which acts as a hub of sorts. 2 of the planets also allow you to use mounts as well, however you don't get to customize or own them per se. Once you've tamed a beast, you can ride any you find in the wilderness or store one in the pit for later use. This feature makes travel a little bit faster. The combat is what you would expect and mostly the same as the first game. Both you and your enemies have a stamina bar. Blocking attacks depletes the stamina, blocking just before a hit will parry. If you block too early or late, Cal will take damage. Pulling off a perfect parry opens the door to a counterattack that will either kill the enemy outright or cause substantial damage. Parrying a blaster shot, as with the original game, will deflect the shot back at the enemy. There is an evade as well. Some attacks highlighted in red or gold cannot be blocked and require you to move out the way. There is a decent amount of enemy variety this time around, making a return from the original game, but there are some new ones thrown into the mix here as well. As you progress through the game, enemies get shuffled, which require you to adjust your strategies. Most encounters outside of the boss / legendary bounty encounters are pretty easy to deal with for the most part, unless you are playing on a much harder difficulty. For me, most of the bosses weren't particularly hard either, to be honest, but a handful required several tries. Of course, you can always increase or decrease the difficulty in the menu. Meditation points, save points, are scattered around each level. Resting at these points will replenish health, refill stims, and cause enemies to respawn. Here you can switch out perks as well, change your lightsaber styles, or add skills to skill trees. Workbenches, as with the original, can also be found scattered around each of the levels. Like the first game as well, they act as places to customize your lightsaber, but now you can also customize your droid, BD1. Every region has several areas that will only be accessible once you have unlocked certain traversal abilities. The air dash, the grappling hook, and the double jump are all unlocked as you continue through the story. To explore all the locations on each planet fully, you'll need to return to them after having acquired these upgrades. The dash is also pretty useful in some combat encounters to get the distance you need from enemies. I do appreciate that the game increases the complexity of traversal and exploration as you unlock new abilities, requiring you to combine them all pretty frequently as part of your toolset to navigate the hidden areas and many of the other sections found in the game's later stages. The pacing at which the game introduces new mechanics and adds them into the mix is relatively good. I never felt that things took too long or that I was suddenly overwhelmed by too much new stuff. Overall though, the combat and platforming sections of the game are very enjoyable. They're pretty fluid, they feel great, and they can be quite rewarding. The pacing of the entire game is really good as well. However, towards the end seemed a little bit lazy as far as design went. You encounter rooms and fight waves of increasingly difficult enemies in a variety of combinations. Then you move to the next section and repeat. Ordinarily, I wouldn't have been bothered by this, but it started to happen enough toward the end that it became somewhat noticeable. There are also tons of hidden and off the beaten path areas to explore in each of the stages, some leading to chests with cosmetics or various currencies. The different currencies, which are shards, data discs and pucks, are used at the various vendors to buy new perks, perk slots, blaster and droid hack upgrades, and a variety of other cosmetics. There are a few side missions found here and there as well. Challenge rifts can be found throughout the galaxy, as well as Jedi vaults. These consist of platforming and or combat challenges that will reward you with new perks or skill points. I found some of the platforming challenges to be quite difficult actually as well, which was not the case with the combat ones even when fighting 2 Rancor bosses at the same time, which will eventually become more populated as you progress through the story and do a few side quests. There is a minigame called Holo Tactics. It's an auto battler of sorts, I suppose. You fight against waves of AI opponents, winning earns you some cosmetics. There is a roof garden also available where you can plant seeds you find throughout the game. In short, Jedi Survivor gives you plenty to keep you busy, both in the gameplay and fun extras. I personally found all the secrets and collectibles on some of the stages, but not all of them. Thankfully though, once you have completed the game, you can carry on playing and explore all the locations you missed the first time around or didn't get to do previously. In addition, as you near the end of the game, you will unlock icons that show you where the chests and other stuff that you may have missed are located on the map. You can now also customize Cal's clothing colors, hairstyles and facial hair. BD1 can customize its frame parts and colors as well. Your lightsaber blade color, handle parts and blaster parts can all be modified as well. This increased personalization is a large improvement of the original game's poncho and lightsaber options. There are more lightsaber combat stances as well now. Single, double and dual blades are back. In addition, cross guard is added, which is a slow, high damage two-handed stance, as well as a blaster and blade, which is new, which is sort of a hybrid stance I suppose. Each of these stances has a skill tree available, so that's totaling 5 stance trees. Then there's a survival tree and force trees, which is divided into 3 categories. A great addition this time around is the ability to respec your skills if you are wanting to try another build. The first respec is free, but subsequent respecs cost 1 skill point. It's really not that much since farming XP to get a skill point doesn't take overly long. The addition of perks is interesting as well. You start with 4 perk slots, but this can be increased. Each perk takes up a certain number of slots, and with strong ones taking up more spaces. This allows you to further customize your build as well. There are a total of 22 perks by the looks of it, of which I obtained around, I think it was about 12. A few more are unlocked after completing the game and starting New Journey Plus. Okay, I don't even know where to start here. New releases these days seem to be plagued with all sorts of issues. Jedi Survivor is no different. I would in fact go as far as to say that this is even worse than usual. The PC version of this game launched as a broken mess. And this is even after 5 patches now that have come out at the time of writing this review. None of these patches have significantly remedied the following issues. There are bugs and graphical glitches, texture pop-in, flashing white squares that appear at the corners of your screen when moving the camera in certain locations in the game. Enemies get stuck in the terrain and a few other things. Look, I mean, despite these issues being somewhat distracting and annoying, they are not game-breaking by any means. However, the 2 biggest issues are the performance and the dreaded Traversal Stutter, which is back from the first game. This game is unable to maintain 60 frames a second at 1080p regardless of detail settings in several locations. This is especially true in the hub location Kobo and a few other places, and in many combat encounters including boss fights. Frames dropped as low as the 30s to the 40 range on my i7 2700K and my RTX 3080, which certainly shouldn't be the case. There are even sections that indicate the game is running at 60 frames a second, but certainly don't really feel like they're running at 60 frames a second regardless. The holomap on the Mantis also can't in many situations get more than 30 something frames a second either. Now these issues are bad enough that they ruin the artistic and the visual enjoyment of the game, but even worse, they are in some cases a serious detriment to the many demanding combat encounters and platforming sections that do require precise timing. The frequent stuttering and unstable frame rates undermine the core gameplay. Granted though, these issues are not present 100% of the time. but they are certainly common enough to hinder the experience. The game is not unplayable, just far less enjoyable. Now, while I only had the issues that I listed above, I say only, there are a fair amount of them. Some players are reporting even worse performance issues than me with faster hardware, and others are experiencing constant crashes, preventing them from playing the game at all. So these are just a few things that you should probably keep in mind. You know, I would love to recommend Star Wars Jedi Survivor because underneath this absolutely abysmal port is an engaging game. I'd be disingenuous if I said I didn't enjoy playing it. However, the technical issues marred and ultimately ruined what would have been a great experience. If you want to fully be immersed, I would not recommend the PC version until they fix it. Even if you can tolerate the issues that I've spoken about and don't mind horribly inconsistent frame rates, I really don't think you should support EA with your hard-earned money when they couldn't be bothered to release a quality product. The fact that EA even released the game in this state is just mind-boggling, not to mention that they're trying to sell this unfinished product for $70 or $90 if you plan on getting the deluxe edition. Even after apologizing, I think this is ridiculous. Perhaps they should have a category in the Game Awards these days for the best apology letter, since they come out so frequently. Anyway, that's about it for my Star Wars Jedi Survivor review. If you guys have any questions or comments, you can leave them in the section below. I do hope that some of you found this video helpful. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. I'm Charling, and I'll see you next time.